Has he got pretty much moved in? Has he got pretty much moved in?
He's got a lot of his stuff moved in. He and JP went to, during the day, to one of the university's surplus.
Okay.
Got some real nice stuff.
Get some furniture and stuff? Okay.
But I haven't heard what they have.
Okay.
There.
7.
I'd like to call the Nashville Town Council meeting to order for the February the 2nd meeting. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Again tonight, Father, we thank you for leading us and guiding us and giving us your wisdom and your knowledge in making decisions for the citizens of the town of Nashville. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, we need to look at our January 19th special call minutes. And are there any corrections to these minutes for January the 19th?
Move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. The next minutes are January the 19th, Tuesday. Are there any corrections to these minutes?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Kenton.
Okay. On page 5. Okay. The Cooley Library information. At the end of that, it says Library Director Austin thanked the council for their consideration and felt that this would now give her and her staff it's incomplete.
Right. Sarah, did you get that red line?
I had every intention of printing it. I had a couple things that came up last minute, so I have not had a chance to print this red line.
All right.
Mary, if you go back to page 4, to the third paragraph, next to the bottom line, it says Wayne's Roofing was selected and the vent was installed. The way you read it, it sounds like the only thing we did was put a vent onto the top of the building. It should include that the entire roofing was done. Looks like it just replaced the vent, which is not true.
Okay, are there any other corrections?
Yes, on page 6. At the very end of the page, it said Councilmember Hinton inquired what the current total tax collection amount is, to which Finance Director Sanchez approximated $2.3 million. I asked how much had not been collected for 2020.
Okay, had not been collected.
Not how much revenue had come in.
Any other corrections?
I have one.
Okay.
Mayor, on page 4, next to the last paragraph, it says Councilmember Hobbs made a motion, and it should include motion to grant the request, and Councilmember Hinton seconded. It's regarding the community building grant.
Are there any other corrections?
On page 9, okay, the town manager's report. Town Manager Lansing discussed the required process for the town and to make changes to the covenants of the West Nashville Commerce Park. There's no elaboration or explanation of that. Also on page 10, under council comments, when the business about Sudden Link, it simply said there was consensus from the council for Mr. Lansing to move forward. We need to note who says what. That's very important. I think, Larry, you said you'd had 3 phone calls.
I did.
And that needs to be in the minutes. It was in the paper. If it's in the graphic, it needs to be in the minutes.
Any other comments or corrections?
There being no further corrections, I move to accept these corrections with the corrections.
Do I hear a second that we accept these with the corrections being made?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Let's move to our next item, which is the Library Advisory Board. Due to the resignation of Thomas Matt, the Library Advisory Board has a vacancy currently. The Library Advisory Board members met with Antoinette Williams on January the 12th, 2021, and agreed to submit her application to the Town Council for approval. So at this time, I'll ask Tequila to speak to that.
Thank you so much. So Miss Antoinette Williams, she is a resident, and she actually also, she also volunteers with the library, so she's been a huge help. And she also works, if you got a chance to read it, with children. And I thought that she would be a good choice, a good candidate by her working with children that are in foster care. And because I know we do a lot of programs with children as well. And she does help by volunteering with our children programs already. So she comes and she checks out books. She's very active already. She's already here. And it is during the COVID. And, you know, when you try to ask people, are they interested? You have a limit of people that are interested in joining. So she automatically says, sure, I'll do it. So I said, okay, well, I'll at least submit your name. I don't know her personally, but just from the couple of months that I have been speaking with her and engaging with her, she seems to be a respectable citizen, and she's anxious and she's ready to get started. I got a chance to let the boards board members, and they seem to like her a lot. So I thought that should carry some weight, that it wasn't only me that thought, okay, this may be a good person for our board. And so if you got a chance to look at everything, she's also a school official, if you see that as well. And so I thought that was good. We can never have too many people that are good tonight. I do apologize.
Mayor, I had an opportunity, and council, I had an opportunity to meet meet this lady, and I do think she will be a good addition to the library board, so I would like to see us move to approve this.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, so she will be serving on our library
Thank you so much.
advisory board.
Also, I just want to say one more thing. The COVID makes it a little bit difficult, like she came in person that particular time. So in the future, you'll see, because I was trying to give them a chance to meet her.
Exactly.
And it happened right after it was time for her to submit, their paperwork to you all. So I don't know when someone's gonna come up and say, hey, I'll do it. We talked about that, I believe. And so she'll be the next person.
If not, we'll move on. Yes? Claire, I can't see back there. Please come forward, I'm sorry. Give your name and your address.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Joseph Plummer. I live at 309 Ballard Drive. I live in the Brooklyn area, and I have some concerns in reference to the homes that have been condemned over there, about 5. I would like to know what is the next step after the home has been condemned. How long do you have to wait? Because there's a house on Break Street and 6th Street across from W.L. Green School. Unsightly, unhealthy.
And they've been condemned.
Yes. In the paper, there are about 5 there, but not on that particular street. What is the next step after they've been
Randy,
condemned?
could you speak to that?
If they have been condemned, it must have been by action of Nash County.
Right.
The town hasn't condemned any properties, to my knowledge, that it has. I agree with you, there's some that need. I'll check into it, and I can have a report for the next.
I was told it was in the paper. I didn't see it per se because I don't subscribe to the National Graphic. But it was in the paper. There were 5 houses, and I've been told by a member of the town council the planning board, that, the house has been condemned. That means nobody can live in the home, that they're just sitting there. Particularly, I want someone from this, council to go over there to W.L. Green. I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably have seen the house. It's sitting up like a beach house. And it looks terrible.
Let me check into it, and I'll bring a report back for the February 16th meeting. In the meantime, I'll give you a call.
I would appreciate it very much because it's so unsightly.
You bet.
And in the summertime especially. Now, squirrels and foxes, weeds have grown up around that house and it looks ridiculous. I would appreciate it very much.
You bet.
And I have another comment, please. I'm not going to hear it long. As far as the Drake closing the road, we living in a time now, bad time with the pandemic and everything going on. And I understand that's going to inconvenience those people that go to church there. Most of them are seniors, like most people, in the area. And back in the day, in 1958 and 60, the crime rate wasn't like it is today. And because of drugs, guns, domestic abuse, you're going to get more people in jail, I'm pretty sure. So have you all considered moving that jail out someplace else? Because I'm pretty sure the crime rate is not going to go down. It's going to continue to go up. And there will be more people incarcerated. So and I'm thinking about the older people over there that go to church. Like I said, this is a pandemic. We're in this. A lot of people go to church. They love going to church. And usually most seniors, that's all we have left. Go to church, come home, go back to church. So I'm just saying maybe consider moving out someplace else, out from the city. I don't know the financial aspects of that, but I would like for you all to consider that. Because it's going to inconvenience those people over there if you close that road.
Thank you so much for sharing your concerns. If it's about the closing of the street, that's coming up in just a minute. All right, let's move on to item 6A, which is the public hearing on closing West Elm Street between Drake Street and North Body Street and Court Street from West Elm Street to 140 feet north of the North Court Street and West Elm Street intersection. And at the council meeting on January the 5th, 2020, the county adopted the resolution 2021-01 declaring its intention to consider closing a portion of West Elm Street and North Court Street to accommodate a proposed expansion of the Nash County Detention Facility. The resolution called for a public hearing on the matter tonight, which is February the 20th, 2021.
February 2nd.
Following the town's street closure policy, the town staff published the resolution 4 times in the newspaper of the general circulation in Nashville, January the 8th in the Rocky Mount Telegram, and in the January 14th, 21st, and 28th editions for the Nashville Graphic. The edition, the resolution of intent, was posted on small signs along the applicable portions of Elm Street and Court Street. Mr. Ransom, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I say let the public hear.
Okay. We're going to listen to the public at this time. You'll come forward and state your name and your address. But before we do that, I received a letter concerning this that I would like to read. It says, "Attention, Mayor of Nashville, Honorable Ms. Brown, Town Council, Randy Lanson, Town Manager. References the Nash County Detention Facility and closure of Elm Street and subsequent partial functionality of the community behind the facility." And it says, "Randy, thank you for getting this information out to me as requested. My concerns are the following. The proposed street closure of the Elm Street from Drake to Body Street, and also requesting an additional closure of Court Street from Elm to just outside of 208 Court Street, is an encroachment on the homeowners in this area. This will cause great disturbance with residents trying to get home. As it is now, the streets are very narrow and hardly passable, even though most are two-way streets. Number 2, the project with the county concerning the jail should be allowed to continue without closing any of the streets. This is a hazard, and it also diminishes the value of the properties in that area. That neighborhood, according to these plans, will be boxed in. As you already know, once the streets are closed, there's probably zero chance that they will be reversed to be opened again. 3, there's also a church in that location. How are the parishioners expected to go worship? Parking will be horrendous, and this will spill out onto major streets. This is the reverse of what is anticipated when making such a change. Number 4, this is a mostly minority neighborhood, with most of the residents being renters as well. I strongly suggest that these points are given careful considerations so that we take into account of all persons concerned before a vote is taken on this matter. Thanks much for your time and consideration, Doretha Johnson. And she lives at 110 East Washington Street, Nashville. So at this time, we're ready to hear from the people that want to speak. I have on this list, did Teresa already speak?
That was Tilsa.
That was Telsa.
That was Telsa. Telsa's already spoken. Okay. Pastor James Parks.
Good evening.
State your name and your address, please.
My name is James Wesley Parks, and I live at 1338 Ed Faulkner Road, Lewisburg. My concern is for the St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church, because I am the one that actually built the church some 31 years ago. And it will cause so much of a hassle for someone to try to even get to us to be able to have services. Now we are dilly-dallying going through the parking lot for Main Street. That's how we're getting back in there. And some of us still do use Drake's Creek, but it's a one-way. When we get in, then we can use it going out. But my concern is, hopefully, that it could be a two-way street.
You're talking about Drake Street.
Drake Street.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then we won't have any problem getting to church, Sunday school, or whatever, back and forth. But even so now, like I said, it's a one-way street now. And we are having some problems. And if it's closed off back there, we just going to be in trouble. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Janice Sims.
Hi, I'm Janice Sims, and I live at 225 West Bell Street. I live right behind the church in the far end. And I'm concerned because, like I stated last time I was here, that street is used as practically our main street to get into where I live at and others that live behind me. That is our main traffic area. And I was noticing the route they was trying to give us. Most people in that area don't have a driveway, so they park on the streets, which make it even tighter to get through.
Yeah.
My concern was emergency services. How will they get to us? We're back over in that corner. If we're blocked off, how will they get to us? In case we need to have fire, or we need the rescue squad, they will have to fight their way through like I said, those roads are already small. People are parking already on the streets, which makes the road even smaller to get through. Or they have to come through that uneven parking lot. There's no other way to get to us. And then that would be a problem. So I'm asking you to consider not closing it, because it is our main street. I know Washington is supposed to be Main Street, but for people living in that area, that is our main street. for getting around and doing things and not having to go through the whole residential area just to get to where we live at.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sims. Next, we have Belle Arrington.
Can I interrupt a minute? Randy, are you all cold in here?
Freezing.
And we need to do something with the heat. How about it?
It's up. They just turned it on late because it was cold when I got it.
Is Ms. Arrington here, Belle Arrington? Okay, there we go.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'll be briefly with you. I'm Belle Arrington, 843 South Brooklyn Boulevard, Nashville. Also, I'm concerned about, I'm a member of St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church. Our comings and goings, and I was here before. And what I heard, our only way in and out was through the parking lot, coming and going. That is not a regular street for us to be coming and going, so I object to that. My pastors are here, so they'll fill you in on the other details. And one of those condemned houses is across the street from me. It was in the paper about 5 or 6 years ago. It was 8 pieces of property in Nashville was condemned, and the city of whomever was supposed to be doing something about it. That house is still sitting right there. It's an eyesore, and it's a fire hazard. So I'll get with you and let you know the property, and I'm hoping at your next meeting we will get some resolution to it, because we're trying to keep our neighborhood safe. And those houses are in bad, bad shape. And something has to be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next one is it Pastor Clark? Okay, Cheek. Okay, come on, please. I'm sorry, Pastor Cheek.
Good afternoon to council this afternoon. My name is Vernon Cheek, senior pastor at St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church. And my concern is that...
And your address, please.
My address is 3205 Amherst Road, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Okay.
Thank you.
And my concern is the street and the parking lot for our in and out of our sanctuary. And I realize that Pastor Parker has already talked about the street, but my concern as well is that on the Blooming Festival week, you know, we can't come through the parking lot. Already now, when Wednesday night, the Bible study, we can't get to the church because not only the parking lot is full of vehicles and campers and stuff, but where we park are full. So if that street is closed, there's going to be a time when we won't be able to attend church. And that's why I am against closing off any street, because it's already a hazard for us to go down there. Even in the weeks of the festival, you go down there, people standing all around the church, they're everywhere. We don't know who out there, you know. And so that's why we cancel on Wednesday night our Bible studies on that particular week. And I just think that it's a dangerous situation, even with the jailbreak. You know, we are a prime location for them to break ready and go into church, to hide out. It's possible. So this is why I disagree with closing that street off so we can't attend our sanctuary. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this issue, the closing of the street? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak to that? Council, you saw the pictures and everything. Do you have any questions?
I'd like to just talk with regard to Drake Street, because I know the possibility has come up where we can open it up to go 2 ways, and I think that would resolve quite a bit of issues with access to the church and to properties back there. So it's my opinion that we should move forward with that. I think it would be worthwhile if everyone agrees.
I agree.
Do I hear it?
Do we need that in the motion?
Do I hear a motion that we proceed with making Drake Street two-way?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So will we just wait on this issue until we get that taken care of?
Mayor, let it go on record. I said no.
You said no?
No.
Okay.
The idea of making Drake a two-way came up after the last public hearing, and since that time, Jonathan Boom, who's making the request to close Elm Street and a portion of Court Street on behalf of Nash County, and I have talked to Bobby Leverman, the DOT district engineer, and he says it is possible and he would support making Drake a two-way again. The only caveat he has is that it would be a right turn onto Drake Street and a right turn off of Drake Street from Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're coming from the west on Washington Street, you wouldn't be able to make a left-hand turn onto Drake Street to go past the jail and up to Vale. But you could if you were coming from the east, you could do that. So it wouldn't completely resolve all the times people would probably use the courthouse parking lot to get to that portion of Drake, which is already a two-way street. But I agree, it would certainly help. Now, if you're agreeable to granting the county's request to close that portion of Elm Street and a portion of Court Street, I would recommend that you make it contingent upon Nash County incurring the cost of making, there's got to be some concrete work done up where Drake Street meets up with Washington Street, and to have that part of the agreement, that we'll give you this in exchange for you incurring the cost to make this a two-way street. And I just want everybody to know it's going to be somewhat limited as a two-way street coming off Washington with a right turn in and a right turn out only.
Well, it at least gives emergency services the ability to get up into that neighborhood. It gives everybody coming from the east the ability to go up into the neighborhood. And then anyone coming from the west can make the left onto Body, go up to Vale, and get there that way.
So I know we do have with us here this evening Jonathan Boone and Nash County Commissioner, Chair of the County Commission. Maybe they would have some things they'd like to address the council with regard to their request, and specifically with my recommendation about them incurring the cost of making Drake a two-way.
This lady still has one question. Can she address her question real quick first?
Yes.
I'm not understanding what you're saying that. I'm not understanding you. So what you're saying is once you make it a two-way, where you can either make a right on or left on to go to Vale Street, you cannot make that no longer?
So
Are you saying I would have to go all the way up to?
No.
No.
If you're coming on Main Street,
Washington.
sorry, if you're coming on Washington, from the CVS, for example, if you're coming on Washington from the east, you can make a right onto Drake once we make it a two-way street. What we're saying is, if you're coming from like Dos Hermanos, you're coming from the west side, you can't make a left onto Drake Street. It's only going to be one entrance up to Drake Street, but it will be two-way. So from your home, you'll be able to exit on Drake Street every single time, but you'll have to exit going towards 64. If you want to exit the other way, you simply take Vale to Body and take Body to East Washington.
So in other words, I won't be able to make a left turn. I'll have to go through the parking lot to make a left turn.
Or you can just take Vale to Body and you come out Body instead onto East Washington.
You're right. You'd have to go to the stoplight, go through the parking lot, go to the light.
Parking lot or the
to make a
stoplight.
left turn from the light, if you wanted to make a left turn.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a good group.
If it would help, I could put the aerial up on the screen.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That used to be a two-way street.
Mhm.
And then we close it maybe one way, and then we're gonna flip it back again.
Well, the reason we did it is because the sheriff's on
We did it for the sheriff.
That right in, right
it.
in.
But the sheriff's not going
Is there any way to get rid of that? Like, because the
When it was
existing
originally made,
concrete's
it was
all there, is that the only reason why?
It's what I was told when I questioned.
To me, that's not
Well, the only caveat is it's not, it does not show Washington Street. I could go to Google Earth if you'd like.
That might be easier if you can just pick it up real quick so that everybody knows.
I know you turn the heat up, can you speed up the internet? While that's loading, I'll offer a couple of comments about some of the things I heard this evening. First, as far as Drake Street conversion to two-way, I do think that's something the county would be willing to explore. That's something the town of Nashville is interested in. Randy mentioned the caveats as far as my initial contacts with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. They were concerned about that being a full access intersection. So my guess is, again, it would be limited right in, right out. I'm not sure if they would also look for channelization on West Washington Street or not, because even, and you've probably seen this before, if you've been at intersections, you've seen channelization in the throat of the intersection to limit it to right in, right out. If people are of a mind to, they can try to bypass that channelization, and then you end up with a potential for right angle collisions, which I think is why that intersection is configured the way it is today, to just a southbound right turn maneuver from Drake Street to Washington. But certainly that's something that the county would be willing to explore in concert with the town and working with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. The other thing that I would say, just a couple of things, and there were a lot of things I know I'll probably miss a few. One is as far as concern about parking, the proposed closure or the requested closure, I should say, of Elm Street will not impact any off-street parking in proximity to the church. And I can bring that image up, but the fencing we were proposing would extend across Elm and then proceed to the east. It would only encompass that area that would be needed to accommodate a tractor trailer to back into the loading bay, if you remember that exhibit from my other 3 or 4 presentations. So that off-street parking immediately to the east of the church at the intersection of Elm and Drake Street would still be available for off-street parking. And certainly we're not talking about touching any of the parking to the west of the courthouse in the large parking lot and the parking immediately adjacent to the church. So off-street parking, I don't think is going to be much of an issue. As far as emergency access, I would certainly have to defer to the town of Nashville on that matter. I have not had that conversation specifically with the fire chief or the police chief, but it was my understanding when the request was reviewed in TRC that they felt confident, even with the closure, that particularly with the fire department responding from Barn Street, they'll be coming from the west anyway. And if the fire department in Nashville is like most firemen I'm familiar with, if there's a fire, they're going to find a way to get to it. One-way streets, two-way streets, three-way streets, they're going to respond to the fire that's coming through the parking lot, coming the wrong way on Drake. They're going to get to the fire. So, but again, I would defer to your emergency response staff on that. But that was my impression. They were, as far as the closure request itself, they did not see that being negatively impacting their ability to respond to any incident north of the jail or north of Elm Street. As far as the concern expressed about security, proximity to the jail, certainly understand that. And again, while we certainly recognize that the requested closure of Elm Street is not without its negative impacts, we certainly think the advantages of the closure of Elm Street and the additional layers of security that would be able to add to the proposed expansion to the jail would minimize the likelihood of any future escape. Certainly, we can't say that there will never be another escape, but the more barriers that we can put in place only minimizes the likelihood of that happening in the future. So that's one of the reasons why we had requested the closure and that additional level of security, both to retain inmates should there be an incident in the facility that we need to evacuate and take the inmates off-site. The additional fencing area that this would allow would provide for that functionality. So we're trying to build that into our project. But regardless of what decision the town makes about the closure of Elm Street, certainly we're going to do the best we can to make sure that what we're doing at the facility is safe for the community, is safe for those residents. We certainly won't expose them any additional risk. Certainly understand that if I lived there, I would look to the town and the county to do the best they could to make sure the inmates stay in the jail, and certainly we're committed to that. As far as the aerial, so Randy was kind enough to get that up for us. I don't know if there's anything specifically you want me to zoom in on. I can get a little bit closer image on Washington Street and Drake Street if you'd like.
If you could just go through the two routes that would be remaining if Elm is closed. So if Drake Street was made two-way, but you could only enter one way and exit one way.
Okay, so as this image is configured, north is to the top, south is to the bottom. We all know even Drake Street is currently one-way southbound, and the only movement that is available to you is a southbound right turn. So southbound on Drake Street, westbound on Washington Street. If we were to work with the DOT and were able to convert this intersection to right in, right out, then you would now have the ability coming from the east. So if you're westbound on Washington Street, you could turn right onto Drake Street and then proceed north to access the church. I think there was one resident here that lived behind the church. You could certainly enter from that direction. But on the exit maneuver, you would still be limited to a southbound right turn on Drake Street. So to your point, if you wanted to exit to the east and for whatever reason you did not want to proceed through the parking lot, and the county is working on repairs to the parking lot. If you've been to the courthouse part in that parking lot, you know there are some sinkholes there. They've been there, they certainly predate my tenure with the county and likely been there for decades. But we're working on that to address those issues, but it still would be, it would not be a dedicated right-of-way, it would not be a public street. So the comment about the Blooming Festival, that's certainly a valid concern. But we are looking to address that issue. But the other option you mentioned would be use of Bell Street and Body Street if you did not want to come out through the parking lot to the traffic city in order to access Elm Street and then proceed to the east. So that would be the three options available to you. Are there any other questions that I might be able to answer for the council?
Any questions? If not, what is the desire of the council on this issue?
I move that we do not close Elm Street. We need to listen to the citizens who have spoken to us.
Ms. Hinton, I have to second your motion. And I know at the very beginning when this topic came up, and I had meetings with Mr. Boone and Nash County Commissioner about closing Elm Street. And because I am a prior county employee myself, I want to do everything I can to be a good neighbor and a good partner to Nash County. But during those meetings that I had with both of those gentlemen, I told them that I was on board with closing the street as long as the citizens that live on that hill were not objected to it. If you look out into this audience tonight, you see nothing but minority members that live on that hill. if you go door to door, I would beg to differ that you would find most of those people that live on that hill are elderly people. Closing the street, making it a two-way again, and not trying to be disrespectful to the elderly people, because I hope to get even more older than I am today. You change the street, it's gonna confuse them. I don't want anybody to get hurt at that street, because I wouldn't be able to go to bed at night. So based on that, I too am against closing Elm Street.
I'd like to add to this. We've had a good relationship with the county. We have given up a lot of land downtown over the years. It's a symbiotic relationship. But this closing of Elm Street is a bridge too far. We do not need to close streets. We're talking about connecting the street aviation to lumber to the tune of $400,000. So we'll spend $400,000 connecting streets, and then we're going to close Elm Street. It makes no sense. Closing streets devalues property. Property up that hill, if we close that street, will go down in value.
So I don't disagree with anything that's been said so far, but I still have major concerns because ideally, yes, the jail would be put out in the county. It's not going to happen. It's happening right where it is. There are security concerns. There's contraband that's being passed every single day because Elm Street is open. There's also issues with the tractor trailer that comes in. It has no gate, nothing enclosing anything. The doors are wide open and there's prisoners that are helping to bring in all the stuff that the tractor trailer has there. We've had 2 prison breaks now, one of which the prisoner was hiding in my neighbor's garage. So I understand the concern that they might go directly to the church. My concern is for that very neighborhood, to make sure that it's safe, to make sure that there's not contraband being passed there, to make sure that there's no prison breaks. So I still have some great concerns if we don't close Elm Street. And I think that we do have 2 viable options of Drake Street being two-way and taking Body and Vale.
I agree with that. I think that we do need to work with the county in this for the same reasons that Kate just mentioned. Safety is a big factor. I used to work with Nash County, and I know that that is a tremendous impact on what could be done. We saw in the last 2 years an outbreak where some inmates were released, and I think that what I observed is that the county is doing what they can to reinforce the facilities they have to make them safer. I agree with the opportunity to make Drake a two-way street again so that the citizens will have access. And just for the record, I work with Nash County, and the reason that the county office building is in downtown Nashville is because the town of Nashville asked for it.
I go on record as voting on behalf of my citizens that elected me. I'm getting calls, more and more calls every other day. I'm even getting calls from people that live out of North Carolina that own property on that hill. So I speak for the citizens of Nashville, and most of them are telling me to vote against it, so I am.
I have, my concern is that we've got to work with the county. I have not received any calls from anybody. I want the citizens protected from accidents as well as from harm from people that could harm them. But at the same time, I'm in agreement with Kate. We need that street to be a two-way street in order, so I would be willing to vote in favor of it if you would agree and assure us that we're going to have Drake Street a two-way street.
But it's still going to be a right in and a right out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that, you know.
Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah, I call for the vote.
All those in, we need to vote on this tonight to move one way or the other so the county will know what to do.
We need to.
All those in favor of not closing Drake Street, let it be known by saying aye. Now, let me do this. Here's the issue.
Yeah.
All those in favor of closing Elm Street and Drake Street and North Body Street, let it be known by saying aye.
What was Hinton's motion. I'm not sure we're voting on what her
My
motion is.
motion was that we would not close Elm Street.
Okay, let's vote on her motion that we will not close Elm Street. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Opposed, no. So I'll be the one, and I will agree to close the streets if Drake will be made a two-way, so they'll at least be able to go in and out.
So there's two provisions. One is that Drake Street be made two-way, that the county absorb the cost of making it
Right.
two-way. And the second is I also want Elm Street to revert back to us if the jail is no longer in use, if it moves out to the county, if the parking, if the enclosure is no longer in use, I want a deed back to the town so that Elm Street is then the town's if it's not being used for jail purposes.
Okay, Brenda, you voted against Louise's motion.
I voted to agree to close the street with exactly what she's saying,
Okay, so that's.
with the stipulations.
That's the second motion.
Right.
So Kate made that motion to proceed with closing Elm Street and portion of Court Street with the condition that Nash County pay for the cost to make it Drake a two-way, and that Nash County agree to give the town a deed to get the street back in the future if they no longer need it for this purpose.
Right, if the jail is no longer being used, if they're no longer need it for that purpose, if any of the above.
And that if that can't be done, then I'm not in favor of closing.
Well, that's the motion.
Right.
If there's a 3-2 vote on that motion, then it's in the county's
Right.
ball court to respond to that and say, yes, we'll do it, or no, we won't.
Yes.
Knowing that, no, if they don't, then the street stays open.
Right. So, do we need a motion for that from,
Was there a second to Kate's motion?
I'll second.
she seconded, yeah.
Okay.
And then
Call for a vote.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
So we will proceed notifying the county of the terms of the council's decision to close Elm and a portion of Court Street, and then we will wait their response.
Right. Our next item.
We just handled B. We just handled 6B.
Our next item is 6C.
Yep.
And this is a request to establish a daycare facility at 113 Woodfield Drive. The lot is zone R10, medium density residential district, and contains approximately .34 acres. Daycares are allowed in the R10 zone district by special use permit and additional state regulations. So this has been brought up for us to vote on tonight for the approval of this daycare center in Woodfield. Do I hear a motion?
You want a motion this time?
Sherry, did you have anything to?
The only thing I would like to add is just consider, as with any special use permit, that you consider the following findings of facts: propose and develop according to the plan as submitted and approved. B, the use meets all required conditions and specifications. C, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining and abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. And D, location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the town.
Okay, do I hear a motion to allow this daycare in Woodfield?
Ms. Sherry, now, based on what you just read, the petitioner has met all those conditions, is that correct?
Yes.
Well,
and
it's for us to determine whether the petitioner has brought forth material evidence to show that it does not materially endanger the neighborhood, that it meets all the required conditions. So that part, yes, she's met the required conditions and specifications. And we also need to determine if she's established that it will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining property, and that she's also established that the location and character of the use, if developed and according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area. So Sherry can only attest to B.
To be.
Right.
Do I hear a recommendation to approve the request for this daycare center?
I move to approve.
Do I hear a second? There is no second, so
Fails for lack of a second.
it is denied for lack of a second to Mr. Taylor's
Motion.
motion. Any other comments?
Mayor, I have one comment if I may. It is a special use permit. The council can put conditions on granting a special use. I don't know if there are any special conditions that you would consider in this case. This would be the time to talk about those. We do have our town attorney here this evening to answer the legality of putting conditions on this special use. For example, if you wanted to limit the number of children that the daycare could have, if you wanted to limit the hours in which the children could play outside, I believe is allowable. If you wanted to put a term on the duration of this conditional use, say 2 years, and after that time, you have to reapply. You know, the applicant did state at the public hearing that she's trying to get established and that is looking for a more permanent location, not in a subdivision, but at a commercially zoned property, is what I understood. So those are options available to the council.
I think at the last meeting, she already stated the number of kids that she was going to have, and I believe that number was 4. And she was going to pick them up early in the morning herself and deliver them. I mean, not deliver them, but return them back to their parents that evening before people were getting home from work.
And the
I think she's
is here this evening if you want to ask her any
well.
further questions.
She's already.
To Randy's point, though, while that is true, she stated that that's what's going to happen. Pursuant to our ordinance, it can go up to 25 children.
It could go.
It can go, with additional workers going there. It can be that she decides not to drop them off and pick them up, that there will be the increased traffic of that many children. It can be other things. So if you want to stipulate to that, now's the time, if you want to put conditions on it.
Okay, well, I think we need to hold her to what she's brought before the board, before the council, and I would offer that she said that she wanted this a temporary because she didn't find a permanent place yet, that we limit her to give her a special use for not to exceed 2 years and let her reapply again if it goes beyond that. And I think she wants to speak. Maybe she wants to speak.
So Ms. Kate, for a child care center, you can have up to 25 kids. For a home daycare, you only can have up to 5 kids.
Okay.
There's no reason I can get in trouble from the state if I have over 4 kids, because I have a newborn myself. He will be considered as a child that's in that daycare because he's not in school. State regulations, you cannot have over 5 children in a home daycare. I'm not changing my home, Mayor. I'm not changing my home. I'm using a room. I would like to use a room in my home for my home daycare. A center, you can have up to 25 kids. It's not going to be changing. And I'm not doing anything different in my house, but besides keeping people children while they're working. So it can't be over. I saw on the paperwork as well, but it says for a center. This will be for a home daycare. Only 4 children.
One more thing for the council to know, if you deny the request, you have to give reasons for A, C, and D. And those have to be made part of the proceedings or the meeting minutes of this, the reason why you don't feel that it is the reason why you feel it is endangering public safety, the reason why you feel it is injurious to the value of the adjoining property, and the reasons why you feel it's not in harmony with the neighbors, if you choose to deny.
Is there someone that wanted to speak back there since we have, did somebody? Okay. So council?
When we listened to citizens in the neighborhood who came before us, there were at least, I think, 8 people who spoke. The one thread that ran through their concerns was safety. And, you know, so that it seems to be a concern in the neighborhood.
I think that safety is a concern that I heard mentioned, and the fact that it does not seem to be in harmony with the neighborhood from the standpoint that we had a number of citizens who did come and speak and say that they did not feel it was in harmony with the neighborhood. I would certainly like to see Ms. Bullock succeed in what she does. I would even hope that maybe there might be some means by which the town could help her to pursue grant funding or something that would be beneficial to her in searching for and locating a facility that would be sufficient for what she would hope to do by providing daycare services to the community.
Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, I have a motion on the floor. I think you got to vote it down before you can go further.
Was there a second? I didn't hear a second.
I didn't hear a second.
You didn't
There
hear,
was no
okay,
second.
there wasn't, not a second,
No.
okay, all right.
So I too want you to succeed. I want you to open up your daycare. I want it to be successful. I do have a problem with where it is, being that this would be the only business operating out of that community. It would be the first special use permit that we would be granting for that community to open a business. I do have concerns that it's not in harmony. And this might have already been addressed at the public hearing. I do have concerns as far as where your play area is located versus where your house is. It's not attached. Is that something that would eventually be, you know, like how you can open up a back door and you go into a fenced-in area versus having to walk the kids across your driveway to get to the fenced-in area?
Okay. So for the, either way, I have 3 doors, 3 entrances. Either way, you're gonna have to walk on the carpool to get to the fence. I have a back door with a patio, a big patio. They can go to the right or they can go forward, and they can go through the back door. I mean, through the back gate to get through the gate.
Mm-hmm.
The gate area has to be where I have a shed in my backyard. So of course the state says that it cannot, the play area cannot be close to the shed because they don't want the kids to get hurt or anything. I have not done anything to my yard yet because I haven't got approved for this special permit to have it. But as stated, they said that I can put a fence to divide the shed. I'm still confused of what are y'all saying, speaking on as far as safety.
For example, my house, when you open up the back door, it goes right into a fenced-in backyard. So I don't have to worry about a child going out on the driveway out into the street.
You have a patio?
I have a back deck that goes right out into
Okay, so I have a back deck, patio.
But it's completely fenced in.
Mine is completely fenced in is what I'm saying. The whole
So from your door, when you open up the back door, the children don't have to then go through another gate.
Gotcha. When I open up the front door, the back door, the kids do have to walk off the porch to get to the gate, if need be. And before I even moved into the house, the people that lived there before me, they had a gate right there for the door. Right there for the steps for the kids who, or whoever was living there. They had when they remodeled, before they remodeled it, they had a door for the steps that was on this side and this side. So it's 2 ways for you to get out. You can see the tracks on the porch where they was opening and closing the door. If need be, it shouldn't be an issue for me to get a fence to put, a door won't have to worry about running out to the road.
So it would go directly from you opening your door, they'd be in a fenced-in yard.
Exactly.
Okay.
A door. Because the people that lived there before, I don't know who they was, but before I moved into the house, my request was to get the patio remodeled because it had holes on the porch, or it was not right. So the people, when they remodeled it, I thought they was gonna do it the exact same way, but they didn't. But if need be, because of safety, if I have to put a door up there for the kids to not run out there, I don't think that would be an issue.
I have a question for Ms. Bullock. The 5 children that you were mentioning earlier that you would be keeping, is that in addition to your children, or does that include your children?
So with my child is 3 months, he is included. So it will be 4 other children that's not related to me.
Okay.
What's the age limit on the other 4 that you're gonna be having, Ms. Bullock?
So I only want to do from the ages 2 to 12.
2 to 12. Okay.
2 years old to 12 years old.
Any other questions? Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Do I hear another motion of any kind?
I move to deny.
Do I hear a second to deny?
I'll second.
All those in favor of denying the request, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. It will be denied, and there's one opposed, which is Larry. Yes.
With regard to the proceedings to a denial, could we get statements for the record as to reasons why for A, C, and B?
Well, they said for safety. I heard that.
All right, so the way that our ordinance is written, the onus is on the applicant to present material and sufficient evidence to show that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed, that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity, and that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it's located and in general conformity with the plan of development for the town. Now, with the feasibility of alternative sites, I don't see that we can say that this particular location is a necessity. With regard to public safety, there are still open concerns, but the biggest one for me would be in conformity with the surrounding neighborhood, and that there's no other businesses operating. We've not granted a special use permit for anyone else in the community, and therefore I do not believe that sufficient credible evidence exists to find that it's compatible and in harmony with the area.
Is that, you've got that, okay? Is that good? Okay. If that's taken care of, let's move on to our next item, which is 6D. Proposed amendments to the land use ordinance, ordinance 221-02. And I'll turn this over to you, Mr. Lanson.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have the staff is proposing some changes to the land use ordinance, and we had the public hearing on this last week on these changes. As was stated at the public hearing, our chart that lists what the setbacks are for yards, for heights, for overall lot size, and the various zoning districts is not contained in our ordinance at this present time. So we prepared an ordinance amendment that would include that, and that is on starts on page 25 and continues on page 26. Another change that we're proposing is, since chapter 160A and B, one was for county zoning, one was for municipal zoning, were combined into chapter 160D. We've discovered that with quasi-judicial decisions such as special use permits, The deciding board, which in our case is the town council, some towns have it as their board of adjustment. We have it as the town council. You can have advisory boards do a review of those requests, such as the one we had here this evening. But the law is written such that the council cannot use any part of that review or their recommendation in making their own determination of whether to approve or deny. That being the case, to me, it seemed rather pointless to have the planning board do that review, since you can't take their recommendation in consideration when you deliberate and decide on these. The other one is written notice to surrounding or abutting properties. Our ordinance is written to the requirements of state statute, which says abutting property or within 100 feet. We had proposed 200 feet. When the planning board met last week, they had more discussion on this, and they are recommending something even greater. And what they're recommending is that when a special use permit comes up, all owners of parcels within a reasonable impacted neighborhood or within 500 feet be notified. And, you know, it's more letters that we have to send out to surrounding property owners. We're still required to put it in the newspaper and publish it for a number of times. We still put it on our Facebook page and try and get the word out as much as possible. But it would expand the radius around such requests that we send out letters to the property owners. And then the final one is, right now our ordinance contains none of the duties, responsibilities, or how our planning board members are selected and appointed. And we do have those in rules of procedure. We take them from the rules of procedure and actually incorporate them into the ordinance. So those are the four main changes. And with regard to number 2, whether or not they have the planning board continue to review special use permits and give recommendations to the council, if that's something you want to continue with, we can certainly do that. I just have to undo some things that I struck in the draft ordinance that attached, and we can leave that at stand.
Can we get our attorney's opinion on that? You did bring up a very good point that if we happen to agree with what the planning board has recommended, could that then be used in court to try to invalidate it, to say that we've taken our opinion based on what they've done, or if we use any language from it?
If there were a remark by the board that you agreed with what the planning board did, that would seem to go against what the statute says. I think if you were faced with that question, the way the court would look at it would be, did you independently come up with reasons yourself? So if you came up with sufficient reasons to approve or deny what was before you, that should be sufficient. And if you made a mistake and accidentally said, well, I agree with what the planning board did, I don't think that, I think what the statute's getting at, you can't rely on it saying, you know, the only reason not the only reason, but the primary reason we're approving this is because the planning board has approved it. So, I mean, I know that the town manager is concerned, and if it comes up, you want to make sure you follow the statute. My main concern would be that you find reasons yourself independent of the planning board, even though it may be the exact same reasons of the planning board, that you come up with them yourself. And as long as that's in the record, I would not be too concerned about what a court said later.
Any other comments?
I have just one comment for clarification in our packet. Randy, can you point me to where, if you look on page 19, it also mentions the planning board when it's talking about the table of permitted uses. Districts in which particular uses are permitted as a special use upon approval of the planning board are indicated by S below. I don't see the change.
Right, that's one I forgot to strike.
Okay, but that will happen with the revisions.
If you guys decide tonight to keep the planning board in the review process, that stay there. If you decide not to, that is one additional place we'd have to strike.
This one in particular, though, we're going to have to change because it says that they will be granted a special use upon the planning board's approval.
Right.
That's exactly what we're not doing.
either way, you're right, we would have to strike that
Okay.
language. Whether you keep them as an advisory board to review or not, you're right, Kate, we need to
Okay.
strike that.
On item number 3, Mayor, I would like to see us use the 500-foot parameter around the neighborhood. I know that other locales are using something in that range. I know the county uses 600 feet. And I think that we should scratch at the discretion of, because we just need to have something permanent in place, that this is going to be our policy for what we will do going forward. We know in the past we've had situations where people have come to hearings saying that they weren't aware of it, they didn't get letters, and I think this will go a long way to ensuring that we don't have those types of situations.
I have a quick question just with regard to that. I agree that we should broaden the parameters, but Randy had said earlier that within 500 feet of this one that we were just looking at today would be Birchwood. So do we want to say 500 feet or within a set community? That way we're only notifying, say,
Within.
you know, the community
Yes.
that's impacted by it.
I'll agree with the community, yes.
Any other comments?
On page 26, at the very bottom, do you need to change 200 feet to 500?
Yes. Yeah. The planning board's recommendations after the public hearing, I didn't have time to put them in the draft ordinance. And a lot of that obviously depends upon what you guys want to do here this evening. So I have that highlighted, Louise, that be changed if that's what the motion is.
So do I hear a motion concerning this ordinance and the planning board?
I would move forward with having the planning board advise us and give opinions on the zoning decisions, but I feel like it just gives the potential to muddy the waters when it comes to special use. And I would like to include all of the additions that have had here, so I would move forward with this.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Do I, let's take a vote on this. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion does carry.
So you did your motion and was to keep the planning board as a recommending body for special use.
No, keep them
No.
just in
No.
zoning. Take it out as you've written it here. And then for just the only change I think that we talked about was make it to 500 feet or like a planned community. 'Cause-
Community.
Yeah, so that we're not reaching multiple planned communities that aren't affected by it.
Our next item is 7A, Resolution 2021-07 to direct finance officer to withhold collections of minimum taxes and small overage and underpayments. Sam, would you like to speak to that?
It's pretty straightforward resolution. This just directs us not to pursue collections of minimal outstanding tax balances, which are $5 or less, or to treat small underpayments or overpayments of $1 or less taxes and utilities as fully paid. So we wouldn't refund a security deposit of less than $1, nor would we pursue collection of something of that
Are there
nature.
any questions, council? If not, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the resolution 2021-07, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is 7B, connecting Aviation Avenue with North Lumber Street. And Randy will talk with us about that.
Thank you, Mayor. In my tenure here, it's been brought up a couple times of concerns with aviation only having one way in and one way out. We have the Davis Farm subdivision at the end. Their new house is being built along Aviation by Todd Spikes. And when he's done with those 10 or 11 homes, he's got 15 acres just to the east of that he plans on bringing forth another residential subdivision, which could be upwards to another 30 homes. I have talked with Bobby Lieberman, DOT, about the possibility of a traffic light on Washington and Aviation, and there really is not a desire by the district DOT engineer
for that. So just thinking, since we got rid of the aviation lift station at the dead end of Aviation Avenue, there's a possibility we could extend the street beyond to the east and make it line up with North Lumber. Now, Brenda and I, we met with that property owner a while back and expressed our ideas, and she was agreeable to that as long as she was not assessed any portion of the cost of the street. And she told us that she would give the right-of-way for the street as her contribution. We had told her that we would take that to the council and have discussion. Quite frankly, something else came up and got busy, and I never brought it before the council. So I guess I open to ask you guys to discuss it here this evening. Know that it is about a $350,000 project just for the street. And then when you add in engineering and surveying, legals, other things, Louise is correct, it's about a $400,000 project, which is something we'd obviously have to budget for and maybe split over possibly 2 fiscal years, possibly start in FY22 and finish in FY23 and split it up so that we could give her a response to the question. You know, I don't think it's anything we're in a position to be able to act upon and go out and do right now, but I think with some planning and taking a look at it, we could come up with, if the council wanted to do that. You know, the traffic on Aviation is going to get a little more. There may be the possibility that when that next subdivision on Aviation comes, we could ask that developer to contribute something to this project. There's the possibility that the property owner we talk to may not always be the property owner in the future, and a new owner and developer may be on that, and they may be willing to pay for some of the cost.
Council, what are your thoughts?
This would require a public hearing, right?
We could do it with a public hearing, yes.
I think definitely people in Lumber need to be read into, you know, because that would increase traffic on their street and also Lloyd Drive.
And I do prefer having the developers defray some of the costs. This is going to be something that benefits their community, and whatever traffic studies they're, you know, required to do would improve with more access in and out. I think that some pitching in for costs would be expected.
I agree with that. I also think that in light of the fact, and I am one of the ones who I think maybe even mentioned to you, Randy, about because of the traffic on Aviation, could we look at some options? But I think because of the cost involved, that perhaps what we need to do is roll this into a 5-year plan so that we can see what we have in front of us, and then the council have opportunity to prioritize some of those projects, and then maybe this can happen in the next several years, but maybe not right away. So just to include it in our 5-year plan of action and see how it falls out.
Any other comments? If not, we'll just continue on and.
So maybe for clarification's sake, so I get back to the property owner, there is interest on the council, but just not right now at this time.
Not right now.
And it's something that we can address in the next budget.
Yeah, right, look at budget time.
Yeah, we got too many irons in the fire.
7C, Coy had to leave for an emergency, so he's not here. But this is the Urban and Community Forestry Grant to conduct tree inventories for the town of Nashville. And he just wanted to get our permission so that he could get started and turn this in with this grant, if you wanted to continue with this. And you read the summary of the issue. The North Carolina Forestry Service has a 50-50 matching grant to enhance the benefit and sustainable management of urban forests. And it goes on to talk about the NCFS Urban and Community Forest Grant Program provides cost share grants to North Carolina governments, public educational institutions, and organizations for the UNCF projects located within the boundaries of a North Carolina incorporated municipality. And after discussing with the Tree Board and the North Carolina Forest Service, the next step in managing our town's trees would be to complete some tree inventories. and the information from these inventories would be used to develop a sustainable forest management plan for the town of Nashville and to address safety concerns with our existing urban forest. In order of priority, these inventories are listed below, and it listed the risk tree inventory, the sample tree inventory, the canopy cover analysis, and the cost of these surveys is based on the street mileage. And he just wanted permission to get this grant submitted. Do I hear a motion that we submit this grant for our
Do we have a dollar amount?
Yes,
50.
Roy projected the cost of those 3 surveys at $16,500.
Now, that's not with the matching 50% though, right?
That's the total cost of those, and we would have to stand half.
Right.
That.
All right.
Half of that would be ours. If you make,
Reimbursable grant.
we have with us this evening Donald Street, who is the chairman of the tree board. If you care to have him expand on any of this, he's here and available in Coy's absence.
Sure.
I thought Coy was going to be here tonight. I talked to him this morning. He said he'd be on standby if you ask him any questions, so I just came to kind of back him up. But this thing's a 50-50 grant. It's 16,000 and some number, and we're in for half of that, but we have to pay it all up front. We get half of it back at some point in time. But what it will do will give us an inventory of what we need to do down the road. Right now, we do not know what we've got in town that's livable or what. We got lots of trees that's aging out. We got some coming on. We got the wrong kind of stuff growing in the wrong places. We're looking also at this area you're going to cut over out of the wetlands. The west of town is reforesting that. And whatever you're going to do with the business park, that's something else for discussion too. But anyway, it's something the town's definitely needed if we're going to stay in the tree business. And you know, by being a tree city, we're required to spend $2 per year per head for all the people in town to do things. So I would suggest is start planning in next year's budget, start looking into this. If you want to give it to the tree board to use or run it through Parks and Rec, any way you want to do it's fine. But if we're going to keep our sign out on the street, we'll have to spend some money.
And the recommendation of the tree board was to move forward with going for this grant.
I'm sorry, I can't
The
hear.
recommendation of the tree board was to move forward.
Oh, yes.
Going for the
Yes.
grant.
Yes. We're also looking forward at our next meeting, if we can work it out, to see how we can work tree policy into town planning. You know, for suburban development, subdivisions, these kind of things. But that's on down the road. But this is something we have to get done now, so to get underway. I hope we get the money. These things we got about like a 95% chance of success with this, I understand.
When speaking with the entity that gives the grant, they did say that we had a very good chance of receiving something, if not all.
Yeah, we've got on. And Kate's our liaison with the council, so she's probably got much more of this than I have. Because all I have is the blurbs that Coy gave us that came down from Raleigh, which is what you read. So
thank you so much.
We're all together. Okay. Any other comments, questions, whatever? Yeah, we're not getting into firewood selling business. So.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Separate jurisdictions, that every 5 years a resolution has to be approved by the town council. And the last one that was approved was, I believe, on January 2nd, 2015. And so, and that resolution covered from years 2000, the plan that was done for 2015 to 2020. So the new plan they have now covers November 6, 2020 through November 5th, 2025. And with this plan, so God forbid, any type of disaster happens, you, under this plan, you will be eligible for federal assistance, you know, for monies or funding to help the town for any disasters. So without the plan, you won't be covered. And so this is just a formality of just approving the resolution so you can make sure that you'll be eligible for any type of funding in case of any type of disaster. And the plan is online. It's like a 600 and some page document.
We'll read
So I
that.
didn't want to print that out for you.
Are there any questions for Sherry? If not, do I hear a motion for us to approve the resolution of adoption for the town of Nashville with the NEW Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan?
Move
So
to
made.
approve.
There's a
Second.
second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is the community banner design, and we'll go back to Sherry for that also.
Okay, so I've been working hard with Downtown Strong. They've done a wonderful job with communicating with me and CGI in the process of trying to design our banners. So I believe the original design, they wanted some type of streetscape, but they decided to hold off on that so we can have more time to actually work on it. So they decided to do this a standard design, as you see in your packet, 2 samples that has Welcome to the Original Nashville with the 1780 in the state. So the majority of the members of the Downtown Strong has decided on banner number 2 as the design. And what will happen is, once whichever one you decide or approve, then I will contact CGI for the final design, and they will go ahead and try to get those banners ordered. So they will be going to the 43 sponsorships that we currently have in place. And that was for the 38 business sponsorships and the 5 town.
Council?
Mayor, I also like the one for Exhibit 2, but I would like to see maybe a little star or a dot.
Yes,
or
indicating
something
where Nashville is.
on the
Yes.
map, within the diagram of the state to indicate where Nashville,
Yeah.
proximity of Nashville.
So maybe on the other side of 1780 or something?
Right, just a little star right
Right
there.
by the 0, just put a dot or a star.
Okay.
Any other
Will
discussion?
a red star be okay? Or
You want a red star or white star, Larry?
Or
star?
White star be fine,
Okay.
just so they don't think we're on the western part of the state.
Right, yeah.
That's right.
Any other comment?
I would just like to say that Sherry has the patience of a saint. This has gone back to her
I
so
know.
many times, back to the board so many times, back to the drawing board, and she's just been a champ the whole time.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
All those in favor of number 2, let it be known by, I need a motion. Not-
I move that we select number 2.
Okay.
Second.
I hear a second.
With the star.
With the star, yes.
I second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, Manager, do you have anything else to add?
I think I'll defer to Sam to let you guys know when the auditor's coming.
Okay.
If there are any highlights on the financials she handed out prior to the meeting, any highlights of that?
So the auditor, I had originally had her scheduled to come on the 16th. She emailed me just a couple of days later and said that she wouldn't be able to make it until the 2nd. They're actually still wrapping up a few things on our audit. So we've had to request an extension on that. As far as highlights, I don't really have any highlights. But your revenues and expenditures are still on target for general fund. Revenues and expenditures in the enterprise fund are both under budget. I don't think it's going to be a result in any additional net appropriations at this time in the enterprise fund. Just both are.
So the auditor will be on our March 2nd meeting agenda to give us the audit report.
Sounds good.
And I believe their office had some of the same complications many other offices had, including ours, some absences due to COVID.
Okay. Just a quick question to clarify for my mind, Sam. The number of months sales tax that are reported in this, is it 4?
I've actually gotten everything through January.
Okay, so that would be,
All the months are in there. So, but except for the first 2 months, we had the code back.
right,
So-
exactly. So that's what so we would have like July, August, September, and
So it'd
October.
be September, October, November, December, so it would be 5 months in there.
Okay, all right, I know what you're saying, I got it.
Any other questions?
Same property taxes, how they come in, it looks like there's about 101,000 outstanding for 2020.
Yes, ma'am, and I actually just checked it this afternoon, and we had collected another 26,000 just in the last 2 days. So we're down to about 76,000.
But we're still trying to get the 247,000 going back to 2011.
As far as the older tax years?
Kate, do you have any additional comments?
No additional comments tonight, Mayor.
How about you, Louise
I'm fine.
and Larry?
I'm fine.
Thank you all for coming out, and stay safe. And do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
All right.
Meeting is adjourned.